5 أشياء مرعبة صارت لناس كانوا في رحلة صيد. أعوذ بالله. لايك اشتراك يا عيال.
The Hunting Public is a DIY hunting channel based in Missouri.
حلو.
Their primary focus is to educate new and inexperienced hunters, and most of their
قناة
content
حقت
follows a
صيد
very
عادية.
similar
أوكي.
format built around that purpose. Their videos show the hunters going to different locations, finding the game, and usually completing the hunt by the end,
أوكي.
all while explaining their thought process at each step in detail. And the video they
حلو
filmed on September 25,
حلو الفكرة هذه.
2022 was meant to be no different. Two of the channel's hosts, Ted and Nick, were out bow hunting deer on public land in their home state. Little did they know, this trip was about to be cut short by the most disturbing encounter they've ever had in the wilderness. The incident happened at roughly 6:45 p.m. while the two were hiding in a tree waiting for a deer, when out of nowhere they heard what sounded like a loud scream in the distance.
زعيق لا يكون جن. في زعيق والله. في زعيق والله. زعيق زعقت حرمة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
It was too distinctly human to be coming from an animal or something similar. And while this was plenty terrifying on its own, it was only the beginning of a much more haunting sequence of events.
لا.
Because not only did the screaming continue for the next 30 minutes, it also became more manic and blood-curdling with each passing minute.
أعوذ بالله. أعوذ بالله يا جن يا أحد. في هرجة. لأن الغابة دائما تصير فيها جرائم.
It became worse when they heard the sound of several gunshots coming from the same direction.
لا. 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 تكفى ابغى نهاية للقصة هذه. لا.
Now, all of this still could have had a perfectly reasonable explanation. Maybe the person screaming was being chased by a predator like a black bear and used their firearm in self-defense. However, what made this explanation unlikely were the few coherent words that could be heard in between the screaming, with the voice yelling for help and saying phrases like, "I hate you."
لا. لا.
became even more disturbing.
تكفى دق على الشرطة.
Shouting what sounded like "somebody help, you effing killed her" and other disturbing phrases.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بقينا بس احنا حنعورها. لا هذا رعب هذا. انت قتلتوها بغير انت قتلتوها. لا.
Screaming, shouting, and gunshots, the two also heard the sound of multiple cars speeding off, after which everything went silent. By now, Ted and Nick were convinced they had just heard a horrific crime take place less than half a mile from their location. Unfortunately, they didn't have cell service in the wilderness to make a report, and the only way out of the woods was in the same direction as the screaming. Getting too close and alerting what could be an armed and dangerous group could have been life-threatening. So they decided to stay silently hidden in the trees for the next few hours, and only moved back after it was completely dark out. The two eventually made it back to their car and drove to a spot with cell reception to report the incident. However, from what I was able to find, the authorities weren't able to locate a body or even find any evidence of a crime at the location Ted and Nick, leaving this disturbing encounter.
لا يا عمي والله رعب والله.
People have come up with several theories to explain the situation, ranging from a firing squad execution to someone having a drug-fueled mental breakdown with a gun in their hand. But many have also accused the hunting public of faking the whole thing, which is a common strategy by failing YouTube channels to go viral and gain new viewers. However, the hunting public had a fairly consistent viewership
مستحيل مو فيك.
and it didn't increase by a significant amount after the encounter. They also have over 1,400 other regular hunting videos, this being the only one with a strange encounter. Typically, channels that fake videos have other suspicious content. The screams also seemed far too primal and emotional for anyone to fake that convincingly. Put simply, what they heard was more than likely real. Unfortunately, it's been over 3 years since the incident,
ما
and we
في
still have
إجابة
no
على
answers
الموضوع.
on what it was all about. In November 2022, a bow hunter from Michigan named Brendan Fitzpatrick was camping alone inside his hunting blind, waiting for a deer to pop into view.
حلو.
when suddenly he was startled by a voice he didn't recognize.
لا.
Brendan looked outside to see who it was and came face to face with an angry-looking man pointing an AR directly
لا
at him.
مأشر على
Brendan tried
سلاح.
to explain the situation, but the man wasn't willing to hear any of it and kept becoming more and more hostile.
I'm out there right now. All right.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
But I just want to show you kind of why we're here. We pay good. We pay good money to hunt this property. We've been hunting it for years.
No, you ain't been moving for years. I've been here 8 years.
Do you live on this property right here?
Sir, you're not listening to me. I'm not.
I just want to talk to you. I'm sorry.
He then told
أعوذ
Brendan
بالله
to put his
الرب.
phone down and said what can only be interpreted as a threat.
Put your phone down.
You have an AR in front of me. I'm scared.
Put your phone down.
Dude, I'm scared as now.
Okay, well, it's gonna be more scary. Are you attacking me?
No, sir. No, sir. No, sir. I'm hunting. I'm hunting with.
Drop your phone.
Oh my God.
أعوذ بالله أعوذ بالله.
I'm bow hunting. I don't have any guns on me.
Him saying, "Are you attacking me?"
يقول هل
Brendan was doing
تهاجمني؟
everything in his power to cooperate and stay calm.
هذا
came off as looking
شكله-
for an excuse to open fire and claim self-defense later.
يب
He
يب
also
يب.
kept ordering Brendan to get out of the area while repeatedly threatening him with his gun and his aggressive-sounding dog. Brendan explained that he wasn't trespassing and that the land he was on was legally leased for bow hunting, which was true and was something he and his family had been doing for multiple years. However, despite getting a reasonable
أعوذ
explanation,
بالله
the man
الرجيم.
refused to accept any of it and kept trying to intimidate Brendan. What made the encounter even more unsettling for Brendan was that the man refused to even state his name, making it clear that he had no interest in a civil conversation.
إيش ذا يبي
Not only
يقتله
that,
كذا
he also
فجأة؟
name-dropped Chai Vang when threatening Brendan, a violent criminal who
أحل.
took the lives of 6 people and injured 2 more members of a hunting party in 2004. Put simply, the man was insinuating that he was willing to do the same to Brendan if he didn't comply. Fortunately, Brendan was able to stay composed enough to not aggravate the man any further.
ليه
and
حاطين
let the scene
صورته مات
end.
هو يعني ولا
Brendan
كيف؟
later tried to press charges against the man, but the police weren't as helpful as he'd hoped. They essentially
ليه؟
told him that he didn't have enough evidence to start a criminal case against
كيف؟
the man and left it at that. However, that wasn't even the end of it. Because a year later, on November 25, 2023, Brendan's brother encountered the same man while hunting in the area. Due to what happened the year prior, he made sure to position his tree stand more than 150 yards away from the site of the original confrontation.
حلو بعدها
But
زيادة.
for some reason, the man became even more hostile than last time and directly opened fire without saying a word. Luckily, none of the shots actually hit Brendan's brother, and he
Aha.
was able to leave the area without getting injured. However, according to Brendan, the authorities didn't file any charges
Come
against
on!
the man yet again, citing the same lack of evidence. Though people online suspect that the perpetrator might have connections at the local police department, allowing him to threaten the lives of innocent people and not face any consequences.
أعوذ
The
بالله
only
شكله عنده
silver lining in
واسطة.
this disturbing case is that no one was actually hurt. Brendan and his family have also returned to hunting, likely at a completely different location.
والله ما حق والله ما
On
أصيد
September
والله
10,
ثاني.
2024, at approximately 7:45 a.m., 2 fishermen were kayaking down Lake Emery in Franklin, North Carolina,
حلو صيد.
when one of them spotted what
تكفى.
appeared to be a log drifting in the water ahead.
تكفى.
However, something about it didn't feel right.
تكفى لا يكون
So
تمساح.
Mark walked his
شافوا
paddle closer to
خشبة.
take a better look, and that's when he made the horrifying discovery.
تكفى.
It wasn't a log at all. In reality, he was staring at human remains that had likely been in the lake for multiple days by that point. He was still a bit unsure and thought that maybe it was some Halloween decoration that had found its way into the lake. But the closer he got, the clearer it became. The remains were certainly real. And after taking a couple of minutes to calm his nerves, Mark dialed 911 and told them about his discovery.
I am fishing on Lake Emery, and I have come across a dead body.
Are you in the water?
Yeah, I'm sitting here looking at it.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. أعوذ بالله يا الروح.
I mean, it looks like a dead body. I mean, there's a hand sticking up. There's a rotted face. I don't know if it's some kind of stupid Halloween spooky thing, but I'm not touching it. So.
Now, discovering human remains like this is disturbing enough on its own.
إي
But
والله.
what made this find even more chilling was the dark implications it suggested. You see, authorities had also found the remains of a 19-year-old boy
لا.
in the same lake just a month earlier.
في واحد
And if
لقى
the two
واحد
cases
قبلها
were
بشهر.
connected, it meant that there was possibly a serial killer
أعوذ
loose in a
بالله
small
في
town
قتل
of Franklin.
متسلسل يمكن.
While talking to the police, Mark also remembered seeing a pair of Crocs lying near the boat ramp he used earlier that morning, adding another disturbing layer to an already unsettling situation. That said, the reality of this case turned out to be far more tragic than
ليه؟
disturbing.
مأساوية
The
ليه؟
person in the lake was later identified as 50-year-old Ethel Marie
اوكي
Ogle.
50
According to
سنة.
the official reports, there was no foul play involved in her death.
كيف؟ يعني طاحت
At first
بالغلط؟
glance, duck hunting seems like one of the safest
طاحت
hunting
بالغلط
styles
يعني
out there,
ولا؟
especially since it doesn't require hunters to spend any
أعوذ
time
بالله.
deep in the wilderness where running into angry predators like bears or bobcats is a constant concern.
هذول
However, duck
يصيدوا بط.
hunting, just like most other outdoor activities, comes with its own set of risks. Something Ethan from the Lucas Reinck's YouTube channel became well aware of in November 2020.
إيش
He
صار
was
له
out
هذا؟
hunting ducks with a shotgun early in the morning while the sun was barely up. After staking out on a beach for a few hours and waiting for the ducks to gather, he found a target and managed to shoot it down.
حلو.
The duck fell a bit too far into the water.
حلو.
But without a boat, his only option was to wade into the water to retrieve it. And that's when everything went wrong.
لا.
Ethan had plenty of duck hunting experience under
لا
his
لا
belt,
تقول لي
but
في
he
شيء طلع له
wasn't
من البحر.
completely familiar with this particular lake and didn't know about the sharp drop off a few feet off the shore.
اوكي
as he
كان
got
في
closer to
طيحة
the
في
duck, the duck
الموية.
suddenly dropped off from under his feet, leaving him struggling to stay afloat.
لا في طيحة يا عيال.
He also knew how to swim, but that wasn't as big of a help as he'd hoped it to be. The biggest issue at hand were his waders. They became filled with water, sinking him deeper while also making it near impossible to move in the water. Under normal circumstances, staying afloat is relatively easy for anyone who knows what they're doing. However, water-filled waders make this otherwise simple task
عنده لأنه
infinitely more
الموية
difficult,
دخلت
as
كثيرة في
drowning becomes a
جسمه وفي
stronger
لبسه.
possibility with each passing second. To make matters worse, the water Ethan was in was also extremely cold. Even if he could stay afloat with heavy waders, he still risked contracting hypothermia and passing out before drowning. The cold water was also tensing up his muscles and making it difficult to keep moving. And to top
طب
it
ليه
all
نط
off,
زي
he was
كذا على
also
طول؟ نسأل الله
completely alone on
السلامة.
this trip. Having someone with you on any nature expedition increases the chances of survival exponentially. Even if a partner isn't able to help directly, they can at the very least call for help. Ethan, however, didn't have that option. All he could do was keep his calm and keep swimming toward the shore with all his energy. Fortunately, this worked. After a brief but intense struggle, he was able to find the underwater ledge and make it out relatively unharmed.
اوكي كويس
And while his
كويس كويس.
determination and level-headed approach certainly helped, his surviving the incident was nothing short of incredibly
والله
lucky.
صدف 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 صدف
In
صدف
May
صدف. اوكي
2017,
عدت
45-year-old
سليم الحمد لله.
Richard Wesley was out bow hunting in Ontario, Canada.
كمان
when he
صيد
suddenly came
قوس
face
ما
to
وكلي
face with
انتو.
the last animal you want to see in the wilderness, a bear.
روبن هود.
He initially tried to
لا.
and hoped the bear would walk away.
لا.
Unfortunately, he was in a wide open area.
لا الدب شاف لحاله.
Coming toward him. One of the only options he really had left at this point was to run away, which, considering a bear's top speed of up to 35 miles per hour,
ما يقدر يسوي
roughly 55
ما يقدر
kilometers
يسبق
per hour,
منه.
wasn't really possible. Or he could stand his ground and try to scare the bear away before it got too close. Because if the bear actually decided to attack, Richard would have no real way of winning that fight. Black bears can generate a bite force of up to 1,000 psi with their 2.5-inch long teeth, which is enough to easily fracture a human skull or even sever the head completely from the neck. Adult black bears can also weigh up to 600 pounds or 272
الموت.
kilograms. In other words, once a black bear is on top of you, there's no practical way to get it off. Plus, the weight alone can also cause asphyxiation within seconds. Not to mention the 2-inch long claws that can leave deep lacerations down to the bone. So, even if the bear decided to leave Richard alone after a single claw swipe, he would have likely bled out right there before help arrived. With all this in mind, he stood up and tried to intimidate the bear. Unfortunately, this backfired.
لا قرر يضربه. يقول تتمعلم علي تتمعلم علي تعال بجي اضربك. يعني ما في حاجة ثانية يقدر يسويها. لا.
Instead of running away, the bear lunged at Richard and slammed into the ground. For a moment, he thought this was the end. But as he was falling down, something exceptional.
ايش المحظوظ اللي صار؟
The wooden bow Richard was holding in his hand got shoved into the bear's jaw.
دخل في فمه.
Shredding his arm, but biting into the wood also disoriented it enough to make it turn and leave Richard alone.
اوكي لانه عض البو فقع القوس.
Richard was able to walk away with only a few minor bruises. But while he escaped physical harm, the
لا والله
impact of
والله لا خاف الحياة كلها.
significant. As he stated in an interview later, "We watched the video footage. My stomach just tightened, and my wife started crying. Instead of
أعوذ
admitting I was
بالله.
scared, and I probably should have went and talked to a professional about what happened, but I just downplayed it. And for the life he has.
أعوذ بالله يا عيال، أعوذ بالله. لا تروحوا صيد يا عيال، لايك واشتراك.